This is no rush to action. This has been delayed for decades. I was here 15 years ago when Virginia Tech was the site of a mass killing. And in 15 years, we haven't gotten gun laws changed and reformed. This bill, which is somewhat of a compilation of other laws, all should have been law before but should be law today. And the Democrats are not rushing to anything. The public is demanding that we take action because they've seen what happened in Uvalde, Texas. They've seen what happened in Buffalo. They've seen what happened last night in Tulsa. It is happening all too often, and it's deadly. Assault weapons were banned from 1994 to 2004. It was constitutionally permissible. It wasn't until 2008 in the Heller decision when Justice Scalia said that people had a right, based on the Second Amendment, to protect their homes with reasonable weapons, and said that that was not something that would prohibit government from having more restrictive laws on people who had mental health problems and or people who had criminal backgrounds or other possible changes in the law. The Second Amendment, like the First, is not absolute. The First Amendment, you cannot defame people. You cannot go into a theater and holler fire. There are limits, and there are limits to the Second Amendment. And assault weapons is one of those limits we've had for 10 years. During that time, we had less mass killings in this country, and we should have it again. Assault weapons are made to kill. The picture that Miss Jackson Lee had up here of those 19 children, the last time you'll be able, or anybody would be able to recognize some of them, because when they're hit with an assault weapon, they cannot be identified. They are obliterated, and they need DNA to identify them. They put holes in their bodies so large that there's no way they could survive. They are weapons of war and weapons of death and weapons of destruction that we should not permit out here. And when somebody who's 18 years old and right after their birthday, they go and one of the first things they do is buy an assault weapon, that should be a red flag. Where is that person coming from? That's what they want on their 18th birthday, is an assault weapon. They got a problem, which means we got a problem, which means those 19 kids and their parents and those 2 teachers have a problem forever. The NRA has too much of a grip on this Congress and on the Senate. It needs to stop. They're in the business of representing gun manufacturers and selling guns and selling ammunition and not caring about what it does to innocent human beings. They don't care about children. It's not just schools, Mr. Shabbat. My friend Mr. Shabbat talked about the school bill. Yeah, it's terrible what happened in Uvalde and in Parkland, et cetera. But it's movie theaters. It's grocery stores. It's anywhere in America. There's something gun-crazed about our country that we need to deal with. This isn't going to stop all the killings, but it'll stop some. Will it stop a law-abiding citizen? Sometimes, maybe. Will it stop non-law-abiding citizens? Yes. And that's what we need to see, that there are good background checks and that there are limits on who can get an assault weapon. These are changes that our country wants and that this bill addresses. Bump stocks, the issue with keeping them in the courts, that's an issue about jurisdiction, not about bump stock and the ability of the Congress to outlaw them. It's whether justice could do it through rules and regulations. We need to do it by law. And ghost guns should be prohibited. Now there's some new-fangled deal that I've come across in the city of Memphis where they've intercepted some metal parts that have come in from China that turn pistols into semi-automatic weapons into fully automatic weapons. Customs and Border Protection in Memphis have seized 40 devices recently that turn semi-automatic handguns to fully automatic. Now we're working on that. That should be prohibited too. There's something wrong in America, and this committee needs to deal with it today, and it will. I appreciate Mr. Cicilline's bill that does ban assault weapons. I had an amendment to do that today because it needed to be debated and it needs to be enacted. But for considerations, Mr. Cicilline's precedence on this bill, I'm not going to offer it today. But we need to pass it, and we need to pass everything here, and it's time that our Republican colleagues stopped offering just thoughts and prayers, but offered solutions and cared about the people who are dying. I yield back the balance of my time.
The gentleman yields back. For what purposes the gentleman from Arizona seek recognition?
Move to strike the last